Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Hello and welcome to Crossroads. I'm Deema Maghalseh, presenting the show in collaboration.
Let's get that right.
Yeah. Speaking of cultures today.
Partnership, we'll call it.
Collaboration with Mira Business FM and Middlesex University Dubai, alongside my co-host, Dr. David Tully. Hello, David.
Hello, Deema. Thanks for having me on the show.
Did we switch guests? I'm co-hosting the show with Philip Rachid.
Who we have just found out before we started is a great bluesman.
Yeah.
So I think half the show is just going to be your blues stylings.
I wish I could sing.
Oh, we heard it. It's beautiful.
Well, David, usually we start the show with some news from the industry or some news that actually stand out for us. But this week, the news is us.
Exactly. Number one on the Apple charts. In 3 weeks from number 163 to numero uno. I was going to say. Number one, thank you so much, everyone who's listening out there. We so much appreciate it.
We'd really like to thank everyone who's listening and actively listening and enjoying. You know, sometimes when we're doing this, or not sometimes, always, when we do this, it feels like one-way direction. It's like we're not aware of what's going on the other side. So if you can engage with us, if you can
Please
just
do. We're
reach
very
out.
lonely.
Yeah.
What is going on?
What's going on out there?
It's
too quiet.
It feels like The Others. Do you remember the film The Others? Do you know that?
You mean we're surrounded by the fog filled with ghosts?
Yes,
Yeah, I guess
exactly.
so.
Then they
So show us you got ghosts.
They discovered that they are actually the ghost hunting the house, not the other way around. So let's find out the others. So yeah, I would love to know who's
Please
there.
send us comments and questions, and we will do our best to answer them in an honest and forthright manner.
I think this was the most informal introduction to any of our guests. So
Yeah, maybe we better backtrack a little and actually introduce our guest.
we'd like to hear some blues from our guest. Okay,
Heading down to the crossroads.
we are honored to welcome Philip Rachid, director, screenwriter, and founder of Salt Raider Films.
No,
Soul
Soul
Trotter.
Trotter.
Soul
Soul
Trotter
Trotter films.
Why do I always spell something wrong?
SOULTROTTER.
Salt
For those of you
Trotter.
taking notes at home.
It's like Globetrotter, but then Soul Trotter.
The Harlem Soul Trotters. You can think of that.
Okay. Welcome to the show, Philip.
Thank you for having me, team.
And so we'll get more into your work, your achievements. You've also been in the UAE for a long time. You have like a real well-established record of since the beginning, you know what, since I came to Dubai 2012, and I always hear your name.
Oh, really?
Yes, you're the first director
Legend.
I hear of as Philip Rachid.
Tell me more, please.
Well, I did my due diligence, and one thing I saw, I'm still old enough, I check out Facebook pages, and on your Facebook page, it mentioned, of course, your work with Soul Trotter, your film work, but also an active mentor and cultural consultant shaping the next generation of UAE filmmakers, and you are very active in that, and that's why I think you're one of the reasons your name gets around so much.
Yeah, and also your name comes across mainly when we're talking about film cinematic directors as well, not only the commercial part. So since I came to Dubai, I know that you have the cinematic approach in commercials, not just the commercials for the sake of videography, video commercials, and all these kind of things. So
But you're an extremely busy man on the street because we've been trying to get you on since week one on the show, and every week you've got to shoot. You're on. So
Keep myself on the streets.
oh yeah, that was what it said. It said from fiction to docu, street to studio. I love that one. You got to get that in your business cards.
Yeah, we make our slogan is we make cool-ish with cool people.
that's really cool.
It's our unofficial approach, motto.
But you also have fiction films, not just the commercial sides as well, and you have lots of stories that tap on culture.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I was based in the UAE. I decided to be based here, let's say, to to tell stories from this region. So my goal was never to go into the commercial realm, even though we all do it because we need some income. But I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was in conversation with some cultural icons, let's say, in the global industry, and it was actually, or it is actually very. It's a big handicap for me to actually be based in the UAE. Funny enough to say that, because from a funding perspective, there's not much funding for film here in the UAE. Period. Right. With that being said, the outside world, when they see you live in the UAE, they think, oh, they have money. Let somebody finance your film, right? So you're being stigmatized in many different ways, and it's very interesting that I'm still here and doing it. So yeah, no, I made that choice to still tell stories from this region to the rest of the world and shine some light, break taboos.
Okay, I was going to say, well, why are you here? Which sounds very rude, much more rude than I intended, but I did want to bring this over to something you're working on. Okay, as I said, I did my due diligence, Facebook. I even went to Instagram. That's how thorough my research was.
Next step is TikTok.
Let's not go nuts.
By the way, is your account new, David?
Is my account new?
Yeah, your Instagram account.
Let's just say that it's rather dusty.
It
Tumbleweeds
literally has
blowing.
nothing. Is it only to look at the guests and stuff?
Stalk other people. I don't want to put myself out there at all. Maybe I should. I don't. Well, we'll get to that. That's another topic.
Yeah.
I wanted to. While I was stalking you on Instagram, it would say one thing it mentioned. A pivot. This phrase stuck with me. A pivotal voice for the third culture generation. And so when I said, "Well, why are you here?" and I wanted to get into the project you're doing, which is the official title, "The Main Circle."
Oh yeah.
I was wondering. I don't want to jump the gun a bit, but can you talk about?
So I mean, talking about crossroads, right? I am Iraqi, Kurdish, and Bulgarian, and I grew up in Amsterdam. Now that's a crossroads of worlds already. And me being here,
That's worth repeating a little more slowly too for the listener at home.
I'm Iraqi, Kurdish, Bulgarian, and I grew up in Amsterdam, Holland, the Netherlands.
Wow.
And me being here is also because I felt that this place is a crossroad, right? The UAE is a melting pot of roads, of different worlds coming together and different cultures, and I felt like, oh, this is the place where I can flourish and I can resonate and tell this, tell the stories that I want to tell with a perspective from my background, with Middle Eastern roots, with the influence of the Western world, and tell it in, tell it in a universal way that will resonate with different parts of the world, and that's a very hard thing to do. And I'm happy and proud to say that everything we made has proven that, including the Main Circle, which was a project that was commissioned by the Art Center at NYU, Abu Dhabi, and co-funded by Shabak London, with support from AFAC, artist support from AFAC. But it was sorry, it was one of those projects that took 6 years out of my life. It was an experimental documentary that has changed the perception of street artists and hip hop artists that are based here or in the region that trying to make a career out of it, and also has proved that we matter. and one of the main questions that I asked during that let's say process is, how come that we as artists coming from that background cannot be in leadership positions? Why can't we be the creative directors? Why can't we be the producers or the managers or the consultants? And those were indirect ways of showing people that, in the rest of the world, if you look at Holland, Europe, people coming from a street artist background are in top positions in agencies, and they're actually being approached to kind of consult on how to connect with a multicultural society and how to represent the youth. And I felt that was
You
missing.
don't see that happening here.
No, No, it's happening now a little bit, but we're still not in a position where we are considered the leaders, of the art movement or of cultural movements. Yeah.
Oh,
So why did it, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah. Why did it take 6 years? Why long-term filmmaking?
Well, the first conversation it started out with me doing a workshop with Sam Green, who's an experimental documentary filmmaker, Oscar nominated. I did his workshop, and then one of the goals was, okay, make a portrait of somebody you don't know over the weekend, show it on Sunday, right? I did that, and he was super impressed, and he said, man, he basically opened the door for me, and he said, guys, this guy is amazing. You should check out this filmmaker. So by him saying that publicly, opened doors for me and opened the conversation a bit deeper with Bill from the Art Center and Lindsay back then. That was 2018. And then the conversation started, Phil, we have some things in mind about street culture. Let's have a conversation. So I pitched this idea of, if we want to be taken seriously as artists, we need a stage, we need a platform. We don't need, we need spots to train. We need creative studios, but in order for us to be taken seriously as artists, the only way, out of my experience in the past, that will happen is if you give us a stage on the same stage as an opera artist, as a ballet dancer. That's where we need to be. So, and that's what they may happen. And I didn't get green light. I didn't get funding right away. So I did a proof of concept, 2018, 19. And after that, they were like, oh, hey, but this works. Because they didn't understand yet, like, how are you going to combine spoken word with dancing and filmmaking and live music? And it was basically super inspired by what Sam was doing with his projects, combining different art forms and presenting them live, right? And then I showed the proof of concept, and then we got greenlit, and then it was COVID.
Greenlit by who?
Greenlit by the Art Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you say, just to play dumb, because I am dumb, we get a platform the same as opera or ballet. Who's we? Who are you speaking about?
I'm speaking everybody who's a non-traditional school artist, who comes from different backgrounds and not necessarily just the Western arts.
Okay.
So yeah.
So basically transforming street arts into a proper platform
Yeah,
and stage,
yeah,
give them
yeah.
that.
Because in that time, which is super beautiful, we were one of the first collaborators in partnerships with Sharjah Performing Arts, for example. It just got open, and we were one of the first, or they were one of our first partners in the project, so we could train there for free, rehearse for free, which was super. But that is also a new thing in the country, having a performing arts academy, right? Why can't we have a performing arts studio for street arts? Because what we're doing is, super high art. A lot of the things that you see, whether it's in fashion, in commercial, or in film, music, edit, filming style, the wide angles, the quick cuts, it's all hip hop. Even though people don't want to recognize it, but that's where it comes from.
So when you're talking, it's interesting, when I ask you about it here, about Main Circle, your focus is on street art, street culture to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And then the write-up that I found online was talking about third culture identity.
Goes hand in hand.
Okay, let's explore that for a second. But backtracking for a second, recently you were invited to be the speaker for the Holly Shorts Film Festival.
Yeah.
Which was the inaugural one that was held in Dubai. It's been held in Los Angeles and other countries for years, but this was the first one here.
Yeah.
So this was a big deal, and I remember at one point you were in conversation with the great novelist and filmmaker Daniela Tully.
Yeah.
No relation, but no, my wife, as a disclaimer. But you had a discussion with her as part of the film festival. We were talking about the rise of humanitarian storytelling in short films.
Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to explore with you. You say street culture and third culture are the same thing.
No. I don't say it's the same thing, but I say it goes hand in hand.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like it's street art and street culture is a way to create an identity for yourself as an artist in order to have a voice or say something in where you don't get the platform in a gallery or in a cinema or in a dance academy. You know, we have to create our own platforms, and we've been doing that. And if you look at the history of that, the Puerto Ricans, the African Latinos, right, and the African culture in New York, that's where it all started from. Right? Same thing with jazz, you know, like whatever it is, how far you want to go back, but it's the voice of the unheard, and the UAE is again such a haven for people, you know, coming together from different places.
Because it's connected to you as well. You're a third culture.
I'm a
kid.
third culture. I'm a
Yeah.
fourth culture. However cultures you want to say.
There were many cultures there, yeah. And that's interesting because our very first guest, just about a month ago now, Amar was talking about trying to create films that speak to the culture here. And his analogy was Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, making films in New York. They're very Italian. And yet they didn't grow up in Italy.
They were very New York.
They're New York.
Yeah.
And do you see something, not similar, but do you see something comparable happening here that I think maybe what we should do is also define what a third culture kid generation is.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I take the same analogy a lot of the times, and I try to make people aware, especially in decision-making positions, where the strength of the UAE is exactly that, right? Why don't we take ownership of saying, hey, I'm a Dubaian? You know, I'm an Abu Dhabian. Like the same in New York, they don't say I'm American. They say I'm from New York.
Yeah,
That's
You know what I
pretty
mean?
much what Elijah also last week said, that he trying to keep Dubai also as exporting culture and exporting pop culture, not only importing.
Yeah.
So that can be identity by itself.
yeah.
Well, that's a whole different discussion, because we still live in a mentality of importing more than cherishing your own talent here, which I think is a shame.
Do you think it's inevitable for a few years, and then hopefully it's inevitable that it switches over?
No, you look.
Because-
Look. In all honesty, sorry to cut you off, but you know we're past that time. I've been here for 12 years now, and I've seen a lot of talent come, and I've seen a lot of talent go. And you got to create a sustainable way of keeping and cherishing the people that are here.
But to be fair, you know, in America, they had the revolution in 1770s, and it was in the 1838 that Emerson wrote his self-reliance speech, which is we've got to stop importing British culture and European culture and create our own American culture. This was 70 years later. Now, I know things go a bit faster now, but still, you know, 20 years isn't so long. But
I know. If you have, I don't know. If I look at Neighbors and they manage to represent, you know, their new generation filmmakers on a Netflix within 5 years of opening up a film industry, well, then you're doing something right. And I haven't seen that here in the 10 years. How come? You know, like it's not that difficult, you know, at the end of the day.
But don't you think, because also people are coming from various backgrounds and experiences, so there isn't like one unified sharing experience or even target audience that
Well, that's
can.
a good thing, right? Like that's exactly the strength.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why people keep differentiating here and separating. You know, like just from a business point of view.
sorry,
If I was in
differentiating, separating what?
separating. Oh no, we just have to have an Emirati film. Oh no, we just have to have an Indian film. Oh no, we just have to have
No,
an American
I meant
film.
more
You know?
of an audience perspective.
Yeah, but that defines your audience, right? Like, it's, again, from a business perspective, if I was an investor, yeah, the calculation is very simple. If I if I make an Indian movie, I know my audience is going to be bigger, right? If I make an Emirati movie, my audience is going to be very limited. But how many people live in the UAE? In total?
I don't. Are you asking me? I don't.
I mean, it's around 7 million, I believe, right?
Yeah,
6 million, 7
I know
million.
that Dubai wants to have 8 million by 2030, so it's got to be getting somewhere around there.
Yeah, so imagine how many people you're not reaching by not sharing their stories, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Correct.
like, and it's all about, no, I want to be the first one doing this, and I want to be the first one doing that. That mentality has to go, you know. And again, I know the film industry here is more a business industry than it's creative, and it's changing. There's a lot of younger filmmakers being independent, even though they come from a studio background, funny enough. But at the same time, like, the people have been independent for a while already. You know, we know what we're doing. At least I have a good idea of what I'm doing. But, you know, like, that support needs to come, right? And whether it's through cinema platforms, whether it's through online platforms, whether it's through gatherings. I can't stand it when people say, like, oh, man, there's no film industry. Yeah, but what have you done about it?
And everyone is like thriving for that film industry.
Yeah, but what have
But
you
you're
done?
right. That is what everybody says.
Yeah, everybody,
Yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah.
complains
True,
the
but-
whole time. But what have
Yeah.
you done about it?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, because
you've done a lot, as I said, and I'm not saying this, you know, just to pat you on the back, but as I said at the beginning, we were always trying to book you, and you're always busy out there shooting, and you've got an impressive body of work. But that kind of leads I mean, we've been talking for a few minutes here about what the content should be. So when you talk about the film industry, my next question would be, what would be the format for that content that you're looking for? Which kind of ties in with a recurring conversation we have here about where's the industry going. You know, you've done things like you know, your short film portraits about women in the UAE, which we should talk about a little bit too. So, and you talk when you were talking with Danielle, you were talking about the rise of humanitarian storytelling in short films. We also had, again, I promise I'll stop talking. Amar was talking about the rise of microdrama. You're working in short films. So you have these, you know, you have the main circle, you've got you've got other short films. You were talking about the rise of short films. Do you think that that's the format that this content should be going?
I got a new film coming up, Jamal, that we shot in Amsterdam, produced by Full Color Entertainment, NPA, and supported by Netflix. Just a quick plug.
Woohoo! Okay,
Amazing.
plug away.
Congratulations.
Plug it all.
Is it a short or?
It is a short, but
yeah.
again, it talks about identity, but also finding the power within yourself through your cultural background. It's a
Interesting.
realistic
Beautiful.
fantasy.
It's a what?
It's a realistic fantasy.
Oh, okay. A realistic fan.
yeah.
I thought for a second you said a real estate fantasy.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because
No,
that's
please.
the project that's coming out in next month.
But
But
where is it coming out? It's going to be on Netflix?
well, inshallah, we'll see. First, we're going to do the festival circuit and the community screenings and take it from there. But coming back to the format, because that again is a decision, right? Like what are you focusing on? And I still believe the highest form of art that we know, in all honesty, is filmmaking. And what I mean by filmmaking is making something for a big screen, not for your phone, not for your TV, for a big screen. And why is that the highest form of art? Because it combines all the art forms, right? It combines the writing, the photography, the performing arts, the music, right? And the editing, which is the true art of filmmaking. But also because it but it allows us to have a communal experience that we can vibe off of each other. If I feel something, and look, I already get goosebumps, and I sit next to you and we're going through the same moment together, that is a bond that you can't describe.
Correct,
And that's, everybody loves the events here, right? Everybody's about events. Going to watch a movie is an event, guys, you know? And we need to cherish that. So that is the format for me. So I've always tried to create films that spark a discussion, enlighten, or at least make you come out differently after watching it.
You know, sometimes like we often tend to romanticize multiculturalism a little bit, right? And especially when we see third cultural kids. And you also mentioned yourself that you would be the voice for the unheard. Apart from the beauty of like multicultural and stuff, what do you think the struggle or the unheard story of third cultural kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's for everybody different, right? But it always comes down to belonging.
To being lonely.
No, to belonging.
Oh,
Belonging,
belonging.
yeah.
What is wrong with my
Belonging,
hearing
yeah.
today? Okay, sorry. Belonging. Okay.
Lonely, I'm so lonely.
I told you could sing.
But no, it's about belonging, right? And acceptance, and but also resilience. There's recurring themes in my work. I can't speak for other people, right? It's about identity, belonging, resilience, believing in your dreams, being the underdog, but then also never giving up and fighting, right? That's the resilience part. So yeah, I think those themes are super important to share. I compare it to, funny enough, you talk about the Pacino and the De Niro's, but funny enough, people often forget the impact of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky.
Like
Oh,
Like
no.
even
like Rocky
the taxi
1.
driver concept is mainly about this
It's totally
idea,
about that
right?
acceptance and belonging and being traumatized.
For Robert De Niro trying to blend in New York City and
Yeah,
that masculinity effect as well. It's an entire film based on that.
You know, when Elijah was on last week and we were talking about Rambo, Last Blood, we were talking about the hero. And the American hero, which he was talking about, America was very good at exporting that as a product to the rest of the world. But crucial element of the American hero is the immigrant experience.
Yeah.
Superman comes from Krypton.
Yeah.
And all these people come from somewhere else to start a new life. The Western hero comes from decadent old Europe or Eastern seaboard out to the nature in the West to make something new out of nothing. That is a universal experience. I think that's why America was able to export that hero. And that is why, if you say that the third culture kid is tapping that same universal chord, there's no reason it shouldn't work.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. As long as how do you say that? As long as you're a good storyteller and you tap into universal themes that will resonate with audiences, it doesn't matter if I am a guy and I tell a story about a woman. You know what I mean? People are, especially here, are still very, if I can be so free, narrow-minded in the sense of, but this story can only be told by this person, or this story can only be.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the negative experiences that people had here, but no, because I love having mentorship by somebody that is totally different from me. For example, for my last project, Jamal, my screenwriter mentor was Roelof Jan. He's an Oscar-nominated screenwriter. Comes from a total different background and totally makes different kind of movies. But he gives me advice, and I can bounce over ideas with him and about my film. About being Kurdish. He's not Kurdish, but he knows what universal themes are.
Exactly. Maybe it's true. I'm skeptical about it, that some stories can only be told by one person. Anybody who's got a good story can only be told by that person, no matter what it is. But if they're telling the story well, it should be received by everyone.
Yeah.
And those, because of those universal things that are in it.
Absolutely.
So again, I seem sort of obsessed with this question, but we were talking about you believe in the communal theatrical experience. You believe in film.
Yeah, let's make film an event again, guys. Dress
But how
up.
do we do that? That's the question.
To make it special. Get out of the mall cinemas, go into another Cayman cinema, organize different kind of screenings, dress up again, right? Make it something special again.
When film was dying, no, that's great. No, that got me off what I was going to say to a new point. When film was dying its first time around, when television came, it's dying its second time around because of streaming. But its first time, and it'll probably come back the way it did after television. But in the 50s and 60s, when it seemed to be on its way out, and everybody was staying at home watching TV because it was free, they started the roadshow movies, these event movies where you had to book tickets ahead of time, and there'd be an intermission, and it was almost like going to the theater. And are you advocating for something like that again?
Absolutely.
It worked for a while.
Absolutely. Experiment with the presentation of it. Make it unique. Also, when you release a film, make something around it. Anyway.
No, I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to say, because you're saying absolutely, the thing with the roadshow, they made the movies really long. So that's why if you watch a lot of these big blockbusters from the 50s and 60s, like Sound of Music, West Side Story, you think, how do people sit still for these movies? They're so long. But they didn't. They had intermissions and all that. However, that's how they made it. They made the screen go rectangular instead of square. They made the films 3, 4
that's when
hours
they came with
long.
Panavision, yeah.
Yeah. But would audiences sit still for that? You make short films. Do you think maybe short films are the way? Is it microdrama, the inevitable future?
No, I mean, yeah, it's everybody's, funny enough, microdramas, I think it's super funky. And again, our eyes are made horizontally, not vertically. So
I don't know. Ever since Amar was on, and he's a firm believer in the future of microdrama, and he's right.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion industry.
No,
But
it's
I'm
huge.
deeply apprehensive when I
It's
start
huge. I
doing
mean,
the research.
it's a trend that works. And do you see anything? We're talking about still moving pictures, man. I want to see a picture. I don't want to see just talking heads the whole time. In a
Yeah.
frame. It's freaking tiring, and it's the same thing with soap operas. Even though I've played in one, but
Tell us about that.
and the same thing here. We gotta understand the power of an image, guys, combined with music, and then how do you combine those images together, right? It's so powerful that I think a lot of people are afraid of it. And then we live in a time where we just want to consume the easy, stuff on the phone.
Correct.
So,
Let's talk a little bit more about your film, She.
okay.
Thank you.
You can say no.
No, it's a very special. It's a very special project for me, and in many different ways. We filmed it with no budget, and at that time we wanted to represent the hope and dreams of women living in the UAE, from the UAE. And
How did the idea, the concept come out? Like, how did you not suddenly, but like,
Yeah.
how did you think of that I specifically want to highlight women's stories in the UAE?
I mean, I noticed there was a change happening here in the region and in the UAE. And the UAE has always been on the forefront, I think, of female empowerment. And but for me, like in 2015, I won the Act Responsible Award at Cannes Lions for a home abuse awareness film that we made. I made a short film for Arab Film Studio, Imagination, about a female racer from the country overcoming her trauma and starting the race. And it was all. I come from a humanitarian background. Let's say being Kurdish means you always have dealt with human rights and the right to exist and the right to follow your dreams. And for me, it was more than natural to kind of tap into that. So after winning those awards, I was like, man, how would it be if we just let the women talk?
Novel approach.
Yeah, but then also just straight into the camera, right? As if they're talking to the audience. And we did that. We had 7 characters. And then I showed it to a friend of mine who is a very well established and respected curator around the world. And she literally said, Phil, what am I watching here? Why am I watching a bunch of women that just want to pursue their dreams and work? And I was like, normally that would have struck me hard, right? And I filmed it very, French New Wave style with jump cuts and extreme close-ups, and then again just black backdrop and the women just talking right into the camera. But her reaction made me realize, well, that's exactly why I'm here. To make that bridge, because apparently you don't understand the difference of what it takes to pursue your dreams here in relationship. The cultural aspects, the expectations of family, you know what I mean? And just, there's a lot of nuances that are different. And I'm super proud that, that film eventually won like 12 awards. And it was also shown by the Human Resources Authority to show everybody like what, to create some awareness there. And it was also one of the earliest, one of the first publicly shown films in Saudi in 2018.
Really?
Yeah. Part of the World of Women Festival back then. So yeah, no, it made its waves, and again, I got backlash for me not being a man, not being a woman. Sorry, oh, why is this
Yeah.
not told by a
A
woman?
woman. But that's the interesting part, that's why what I find mostly interesting, because not only you're interested in culture, but also to see the woman angle in context of culture. That's what makes
For
it
sure.
also
We're
interesting.
humans, right? And
Yeah.
I'm raised like that. I'm raised by my mom, a single mom. I'm raised by my sister, while my mom was having 2 jobs. You know what I mean? I've had powerful women as examples, and I'm raised like this. I open up the door for women. Like that's how I'm raised. Like you bring flowers, to your first day. I don't know, like same thing like this. If you have the opportunity to do something. So when people started bashing me, like, oh, I think women should tell the story.
Was
So
it
what-
widespread, the bashing, or one or
no,
two
it was
people?
It was funny enough during. So Vox Cinemas organized on International Woman Day a screening with all my work with female empowerment themes, and the host of that evening that I invited, funny enough, started saying these things, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. I mean, like, so why didn't you do that? That was my question and response. Why
Yeah.
didn't you do that? I didn't get funding
and
for
what
it.
did the host say?
Ah, man, what can I say?
I see this also a repetitive pattern. Usually, filmmakers who represent, for example, either stories that doesn't actually connect directly to them and their background, they always have this. Especially, for example, someone if they're coming from upper class, they are writing stories or films about working class. Like, for example, for Nadine Lebki for Cafarnaum. It went to the Oscar and was like nominated, shortlisted for Best Foreign Film in the Oscar. Still, she got that backlash from her own community that you're coming from a privileged class. How come you do about refugees or you do about working class? But
I don't know if that is exactly the discussion, but maybe I'm not fully aware. I think it's mostly the discussion, because a lot of Kurdish films are like that. A lot of the films in the Middle East, let me put it like that, represent those kind of films, and it's almost a form of exploitation. I think that is the bigger discussion. Well, like, oh, so if you want to go to Cannes, if you want to go to the Oscars, you have to make a movie that is like this.
so basically,
okay.
they
That's an
question.
interesting
But this is
point.
questioning their morality. Then, like they're basically not paying attention or not remembering that we are all humans and these are valid issues.
No, she's a
and
great storyteller. There's no doubt
100%.
about it.
And if you see, like in realism, basically, it is rooted in working class. So regardless what class you're coming from, to find real issues and stories, you have to go to the core of it, which is working class.
I think every layer of society has their issues.
No, true. But I mean, specifically in realism genre or realism.
I guess it
filmmaking.
comes back to what we were talking about earlier. What we're talking about is who gets to tell these stories.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anybody can answer that question, right? But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's always going to be criticism.
Yeah.
But in this day and age,
But-
there's always
but
going to be
then
criticism of
means
anything.
if
That's why I don't go
this-
to Instagram.
If this was the case, no one will ever make various films, even like documentaries and stuff. You just got to be
Yeah.
human,
Well,
curious enough.
I think at the end of the day, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. What do you represent? If you look at a Spike Lee and if you look at a Scorsese, right, what did they represent? That's the question, right? Are you just making a film at the end of the day because you know you're going to get the funding, right? That's a whole different, hustle, and there's a lot of hustlers out there.
Yeah.
But what do you represent with your films? Like, why was Spike Lee so unique? Because he was representing Brooklyn, always, right? Like in the black community. But he didn't only show the black perspective. If you look at Do the Right Thing, it was a multi-angle perspective, right? That's what made it unique within the community. What made Scorsese always so unique? It was the Italian community in New York, right? So it's really, as a filmmaker, what is your voice and what do you represent? This, in my honest opinion, sometimes you hear, oh, he's a commercial filmmaker. He's an art house. I want to be art house. And I say, man, I go into the discussion saying, listen, art houses is as commercial as commercial filmmakers. Don't get it twisted.
It's an industry.
It's an
Same
industry.
as any industry.
You're going to get funding if you
Jean-Luc Godard was a hustler.
Yeah.
That's how he kept
This is
working until
very
he
good.
died.
It really leads to my question because, for example, 12 years ago when you came to Dubai, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't have a solid plan of how to do both, as in commercial and your films, right? How did you find your way, navigate your way here? Because this is the most struggle or challenge that people find it here, navigating between commercial side and the indie film side.
I've always tried to combine both. Funny enough, if that makes sense. So whether I'm doing I was one of the 5 filmmakers here in 2014. I was commissioned by hashtag #MyDubai to make their launch films, and it was a authentic representation of the layers of the Dubai, right? So we didn't have the Russian playing the Emirati woman. We didn't have the Indian playing the Emirati man. No, we showed everybody the way they were. And funny enough, I showed that 10 years later in a class visit at NYU, and everybody was like, "Oh, but it's a commercial." I said, "Now it is. Now you see this representation authentically. 10 years ago, you didn't have that." So I made a poetic film of 5 minutes with spoken word again and music and angles.
What did they mean when they said it's a commercial?
Oh, yeah, because it's portraits of different people in the country.
I see.
So basically,
Okay.
you did include the human side
Totally.
and the storytelling side in the commercial
Yes,
side. And
yeah.
and this is interesting enough, this is what I mainly heard about you.
Oh, really?
Yes. Remember when I told you at the beginning that I always hear Philip Rachid as a well-known director, mainly known for this. I think you're amongst the leaders in that
For what?
format in UAE. To stay away from commercial only and include the humanizing storytelling in commercial.
Taking it right from the copy and deadline. You were talking about the rise of humanitarian storytelling.
Yeah.
And you're a humanitarian filmmaker, and I think what I understand from what you were saying, that answering my question about can you ever answer the question of who gets to tell a certain story? There's one thing to tell the story of these people, but who gets to tell the story? The person who it matters to, I think, is what you're saying. Like you were a man making She about these 7 women because raised by a single mother with sisters, it mattered to you to tell these stories.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a scam to get funding or to get into Cannes.
No.
You cared.
Yeah.
And really, that's what it comes down to in the end.
Absolutely. And I think, as filmmakers, we're philosophers, we're anthropologists, I have this quote in this book, funny enough, that says all of these things. We study humanity, we study, the social structures. It's our job to analyze our surroundings and human behavior, and how do we contribute to that? That's how I see my job,
And so, and Deema is saying that you have the reputation as a truly a humanitarian filmmaker. So, if you were talking at Holly Shorts about the rise of the industry, do you think there is a rise in the industry? Do you see an increase in humanitarian filmmaking, or do you say? I know that's a rather general question. I can hear it myself as I'm asking it. I guess what I'm asking is.
So there is a rise in the industry, first of all.
Okay.
I do think, there's a lot of people making things and being independent and going forward, and with support of Sharjah film platform and Ras Al Khaimah Art Foundation. They're getting to make their shorts. Do I feel that it's humanitarian? Doesn't matter. If
I guess
I want to make those films, so let them make what they want to make.
But there is support for that. There's a structure, an industry support, you think, coming together little by little?
Well, support is a big word. I think we're still in the phase of the awareness of why film is important. Again, it's I've written a few essays about, the impact of film. Film is an historical document almost that captures a time and spirit and people and place and their stories. And what we make hopefully will last beyond a lifetime, right? Well, we still watch movies from 70 years ago, 50 years ago. Why? Because it's made with quality. It's made, why do we know everything about in New York? Because there were people who were documenting, telling those stories. The Jim Jarmusch's, right? Whoever, the Cassavetes. It's so important for us to be here and do that as well. And that's important, I think. And once we have people who do that, then I say we have something. And yeah.
Let me ask David's question again in different angle as well.
In a more coherent manner.
No. It's just like different angle. Because I can observe there is an attempt of for humanitarian work, or because people have that connection of like cultural relevance or even like human connection. But how many of these are actually being authentic? Because even for the filmmakers, like when we mentioned Nadine Labaki, you said the main conversation is, are you actually making it because you're being authentic and connected to the story, or are you making it because this is what's on demand? Yeah. So do you think what is being produced right now is purely authentic or because it's on demand?
Yeah, good question. I mean, on the let's say on the bigger level of productions, I don't see anything that is. No, maybe I shouldn't say it like that, but they're trying. There is a mix of genres, funny enough, that is getting better with tackling social themes through horror. It's just horror films the whole time. There's other genres as well, guys. Like,
they're reliable,
please,
though. I mean, that's a reliable one.
Yeah.
I always call it the cockroach of film genres. No matter how many other things come and go, that endures.
Look, I love genre films, but
yeah. No, I know what you mean. There's nothing. I hate elevated genre. It's a meaningless term. It just means not scary. Thinking too much.
And I do think the independent ones, the smaller filmmakers, are definitely experimenting, right? And trying to tell different kind of stories. So I like that. Just breaking through to a higher level and getting the support of the bigger institutions is still a hurdle. Yeah.
I think we need our own local platform, as in like for local stories, right? This what would encourage an industry. Like imagine if we have, for example, just a local film festival.
Yeah.
Right, where we encourage anyone, film students, well-established people.
It's one of the things. So you have your festival, which we used to have 3 of them. Now they're all gone. Now you have all these little mini festivals. But it's one of the things. You also need your art house cinemas, not just one. You need multiple. Multiple venues with multiple owners, with multiple selections, so we can get a taste of what's happening, right? And then you need your distributions also. There's multiple things of that needs to be put in place.
That's what I thought you meant when you said platform at first. Like I was thinking like a streaming platform, because I think the film festivals have gone the way of the dodo because they were for distributors.
Yeah.
And distribution is dried up because people don't go to theaters anymore.
See,
this is the big problem. But
anything has been here, or like any film festival, are basically international or regional. I'm talking specifically UAE level, mainly specified to flush what's going on in the industry here. People get to meet each other, and this way, this is how producers can think. Networking, they can see what kind of talents are there regardless, right? And this is how you come out with a strategy of moving forward, what's happening next in the industry. But I don't think people are actually that connected in that sense.
It's one of the things that with Soul Trotter Films we're going to set up. Honestly, so we want to set up whether it's a monthly screening of local talent and their films, have gatherings, talk about it, critique, feedback or praise, but at least get that infrastructure, get that connection going on, right? But not only by meet and greet, but actually watching the work, and that's one of the things we're trying to set up. Or we're going to set that up in the next period.
This is the first start to becoming an exporting industry.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing. I'm thinking also, going back to what we were talking about earlier, about creating the content that can be exported. And this goes back to what Elijah's doing with WOW 3 too, and what you're doing with Soul Trotter.
Nurturing environment, basically.
And then that brings me to what you mentioned in passing, Jim Jarmusch, a little while ago. And I was just thinking about him, that Jim Jarmusch has had a very long career. He started in the early '80s. He's still going. He won the big prize at Venice. or
Never got
Cannes.
funding.
And some people said last year, well, he got the prize because the main competition was politically insensitive, so he was safe. But that's also relevant to the point I'm bringing up about this guy. He never got funding, never made a blockbuster, never made a Hollywood film, never made a political film, which is why he was safe for that award too. He just makes his own films,
Wonderful.
telling his own stories. And you mentioned him, and that may be one reason why he's had such a long, durable career, because he's not trying to pander to anyone except himself, it seems. And somehow that pays off.
And it comes back again to what do you represent as a filmmaker, right? And so he just wants to make films, and he wants to make his own films.
He wants
right?
to make his own films,
and I miss that, that's, in this generation, I miss that. Here, like
here
in the UAE.
I thought it was going to the sentence. I hear you see anyone doing that, or you don't see anyone doing that?
I miss author directors, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Of course it does. But I think it's hard to find them anywhere, let alone the UAE.
I mean, in all honesty, in Holland, I can quite name a few, but also in Asia. It's just in this part of the world, in the Middle East, let's say, even in Kurdistan, I can tell you quite a few author directors.
Well, that's always been more of a tradition in Europe and Asia than in, say, Hollywood, for instance.
Yeah.
So is it that the UAE is not fostering an environment, a climate where that tradition might find a foothold? But then again, I also don't see many blockbusters coming out either. There's just, it's yet to find any sort of tradition.
People try to make a blockbuster often, and people try to follow the Hollywood format a lot here. Where I go, but I give a lot of praise to the, one person, Valerie, and she was the audiovisual attaché for the French embassy for quite a few years, and she pushed a lot for independent cinema here, and it was so refreshing to see a different angle, or see the reaction of people seeing different kind of work. And I mean, French cinema is high quality cinema, in all honesty, and I respect it a lot. So, it's again, it's the same thing that Japan did, or Hong Kong cinema. They took the influence from France and Italy, right? And made it their own. And I think we're still not in that phase here where people can take the inspiration and make something of an own interpretation out of it. We need to get there, I would say. And
Hong Kong cinema is a good analogy. Yeah. It's a very similar setup in a certain way. And it could pick and choose from various world traditions the way Hong Kong did to make something.
Yeah, I was in a panel representing the UE industry in exchange with Chinese cultural program, and I gave that example. I said, with the beauty of, let's say, Hong Kong cinema in the 80s and 90s, it was the strongest cinema out there, in my opinion, right? Because you had that influence, let's say, from a Hollywood or from France, but then you had those makers that used their surroundings, and they used their independent guerrilla ways of doing the action, or making like a John Woo, for example, right? Like he made it a dance, right? His fight scenes, his gun scenes were called gung fu. Based on the tradition of kung fu martial art kind of choreographies.
It kind of gave Quentin Tarantino a whole career.
Totally right. I mean, like the City on Fire was a huge inspiration. But and that's the beauty of that. And I think that's where we need to go. It's okay to take inspiration.
Of course it is. But nothing comes out of nothing.
Yeah, we gotta find that style. We gotta find that voice.
Well, I mean, the starting place, third culture. For sure, that's something uniquely here, third culture, and if you're starting from that, then taking inspiration from all these places is natural. It's the air you breathe.
Yeah.
So I guess
I'm sorry to bring the sad news. Usually David brings in the sad news.
Is it? Is the clock on the wall
Do we
winding
have more
down?
time?
Oh, 3 minutes.
3
And you know
minutes.
what? Because I
Yeah.
got so into it, I forgot to do our little plugs at the half-hour mark. Oh my gosh! We are Crossroads. We're a Business FM in collaboration with Middlesex University Dubai. Search for us on Mira Business FM and all the usual platforms, such as YouTube,
Okay.
Amazon, Apple. Wait, I'm not done.
Yeah,
Spotify. The list goes on.
Number one.
Numero uno. There, I got it out right that time. Yes. Number one. 3 minutes. Okay. We give the last word to Philip, our honored guest.
You know, you've been on many
Or just sing us a
platforms. You
song.
just said that you've been on many platforms, discussions, all these things. Anything actually you would like to say that no one asked you about yet?
Eesh. What would you like to know that you really wonder about me? Like, let me ask you a turn question.
I was about to say short film or 2-hour films, but then you said about you. Which would you most like to make then? We'll tell it that
So
way.
I still have to make a long format fiction film, right?
Do you think the future of the industry is short film or 2-hour features?
You know, it's funny. People have been brainwashed, if I can say it like that, that the only form is short form content nowadays. But nothing is further from the truth, because we also live in an era where we binge watch 45-minute series episodes in a weekend. You know, so that is as long format as it can be.
You're right.
And this is the power of storytelling, to keep people hooked for 2 hours long. If you can't keep them hooked, means there's no value in what you're presenting in these 2 hours.
Well
Don't
said.
just blame it for the short format and short attention span.
Yeah.
It's especially those who benefit from the short format who push that narrative.
Yeah, this is on demand. This is what
that's a good
people
point.
for.
Yeah, it's people pushing the narrative. It's not the truth.
Yeah, no, of course not. Talk to your friends and reflect with yourself, right? Like, how many times have you sat and like, okay, I'm just going to watch a bunch of series today? You know? Like, there has never been in history a moment like that. Where that was possible. No, you always had to record it, right? Like,
If you missed it, you missed it. It was gone.
or it was gone, right? Like, so yeah, no, we as human beings, stories and storytelling is as old as our beings. You know, we still gather around the fireplace and tell stories and have some food, and you know, that's in our nature.
And we do it down at the crossroads. I like that one.
I like Faraj's cue that, hey, people, just finish up. And I would like to thank Faraj. He's the sound
Faraj.
engineer behind the mixer, who's been always with us since day one.
The Wizard of Oz. And next week he's going to have a hook.
Yeah.
Thank you, Faraj. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you,
Deema.
Philip. Thank you, our listeners. And please do engage, comment, and let us know who are you.
As long as it's nice and praising. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.